So welcome everyone to the Maui College Vaccine Informational Session. We're so happy today to have Dr. Lauren Pang from the Department of Health, Maui District Health Office, as well as our own Kathleen Hagan, our Maui College nursing faculty. So thank you both for being here today and for sharing the information. It's so important information.
Sorry, I was on mute. Shall I start?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, I hope you like this, but furthermore, I hope you take the message forward. You can help us with our problems that we are encountering. So, a couple things. We are very low demand for the vaccine. When we started December 23rd, we had a high demand and little vaccine. Now we have lots of vaccine, and the people who wanted the shot so easily, they got the shot, and we're having to drum up business, drum up demand. Okay, so we had to put out in the last 10 days or so some reasons why you really might want to get the vaccine. Okay, so each of these three reasons, I have a very specific example for Maui, which surfaced like yesterday. So you can see that the reasons are real and they're tied to real examples. So since this is the college, we have to give the reasons a little bit theoretical, a little bit distance, and then we'll just move to hands-on. First reason, herd immunity. In order to stop an outbreak, you have to have less and less cases. So that is summarized in what they call the reproduction number. Okay, I fought tooth and nail on learning about this, but I had to face it because everybody was talking about it. So for COVID or any disease that's contagious, it's what they call the reproduction number. Well, what does that mean? If I have COVID, when I am finished spreading COVID to others, how many more new cases did I create? Let's say that I got COVID, I'm now infectious, I go out and do whatever I do normally, and when I finish being infectious, let's say 10 days, I spread it to 2 new people. In 10 days, 2 new people. So each of them in the next 10 days will spread it to 2 more. So it's 2 goes to 4, to 8, 16, 32, etc., etc. Fine, I get it. It's the reproduction number of the person, yeah, not of the virus. The virus is doubling in my body every, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, but to make a new person. So we look at reproduction number in the person. For example, if I have tuberculosis, goodness, how many new people did you spread it to, Dr. Pang? When you finish your spreading. Well, how long am I going to spread it? Before treatment, the days of treatment, gee, I'd spread it for the next 40 years. Okay, so in the 40 years, how many new people did you spread it to? I don't know, maybe 10, I don't know. And in the next 40 years, each of those will spread it to 10 more. So you get it. It's like this exponential spread. Fine. Well, what does that have to do with COVID? When COVID first came in, we watched it in New York. And the New York guys said that by the time someone finished spreading it, let's say 10 days, it had spread to 6 others. 6 others. That's called the reproduction number. And did we know anything about what were these people doing? Well, we didn't know about masks. We didn't know about distance. I think we kind of assumed hand washing always helps. We didn't know about wide open spaces, go outdoors, and we didn't know about wiping down surfaces with disinfectants. So totally uncontrolled, except for maybe hand washing, because people always wash their hands. One person made 6 people in, let's just say 10 days, okay? So in the next 10 days, 6 people made 6 more, so that's 36. And in the next 10 days, 6 times 36 is whatever it is, 180 or maybe 200. So you can see how it grows exponentially. Then we did mitigation. We learned about mask distancing, hand washing, really wide open spaces. Don't go out if you're sick. And they controlled it in New York without the vaccine to 1. The reproduction number was 1. So one person made one person, and that person made one person. So they didn't really reduce it, but the outbreak wasn't growing. Now, if you just add a little better mitigation, one person might make less than 1, like 3/4. And then that 3/4 made 3/4. And then the cases die out. But what's stunning is that from normal mitigation, not vaccine, you went from 6 to 1. That's pretty good. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, the vaccine, you can imagine what it does, right? If one person is going to spread it to 6, but 3 of those guys are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and pretend the vaccine's 100% effective, just pretend. So now one person spreads it to 3, 1 to 3 in 10 days. And if those 3 guys try to spread it and half the people are vaccinated, then each guy, instead of spreading to 6, spreads to 3, in other words. So that's when 50% vaccine coverage. But you can just figure out how the vaccine takes out these, blocks these people. It's almost like decoy. You meet them, but they're not, you can't transmit it to them. Okay, so I get it. Okay, so what does that have to do with COVID? One reason we ask people to get vaccinated is to increase herd immunity. Herd immunity will start to reduce the reproduction number just by Xing out all your contacts. But mitigation decreased it. Yeah, it decreased it from 6 to 1, but shouldn't we just all get vaccinated to decrease that 1 to 1/2 or 1/3 to make it go away? Okay, so how much vaccine coverage do we need? Initially, when we saw the reproduction number was about 1.5, we weren't really good with the mitigation. There was questions about masking. We didn't know the correct distance to stay away from. I think people said, you better get 70% vaccine coverage. And that vaccine better be above 90% effective. So that we said, okay. And the Germans said, it's so contagious that base reproduction is so high. They thought the Americans said 66%, and the Germans said, no, I think it's 70. Fine, 70. What is it now? What do you think we need the coverage now to control so it doesn't spread? You need 85. 85% from 70? Yes, you do, because the variants are very transmissible. So the more transmittable it is, the higher vaccine coverage you do, and you dare not slip up or backslide on the mitigation. Okay. Well, how much more transmissible are the variants? If basic COVID, the one in New York that was 6 and you brought it back to 1, basic COVID has 1. The variant that's widespread now in Maui, 85%, is a California variant. The transmission likelihood is 1.2, 20% more, 20% more. I used to quote 40%, but they said, no, really, it's not that high. It's like 20% more. I don't feel so bad. Initially, when they looked at the California variant in nursing homes, they said 600%. But okay, it's 20% more. What other variant do we have? Well, not in Maui yet. We have the UK variant. That, compared to normal COVID of 1, that spreading factor is 1.55, 55% more. Whoa, so much more transmissible. Then you better get higher vaccine coverage. Then we have the Brazilian variant. It's down in Brazil, yeah. It's spreading a lot quicker than the normal COVID by 2.5, 250% more. Wow, that's a lot of spread. Not only that, but it seems to be able to give you a second infection after the initial COVID. So when the president of Brazil said, well, I don't care about mitigation, we're just going to get COVID and now you're immune. Well, that was his statement to the metropolitan area of Manaus, 1.5 million people. And Manaus is getting COVID again because of the variant. The variant seems to dodge the immunity of the first infection. But independent of dodging immunity, it spreads more quickly, 250% more. Well, does it make you sicker? I don't think it makes you sicker, It just makes you as sick as the first one. But that variant out of Brazil was picked up in Japan because a lot of Japanese immigrants have dual citizenship, Brazil, Japan. So when Brazil shut down, they went to Japan to work. It was picked up in Japan. And you watch the variant spread to Canada, the Brazilian variant, P1. Because the international skiing set goes everywhere. There's a lot of international Brazilians in the skiing set. And when you go to ski resorts, the gondola, those closed quarters to eat fondue, when you get to take your mask off, it's like a cruise ship. Okay, so there's no question why the Brazilian is exploding in Canada. And it started in Whistler, the place where the guys go skiing, and it's spreading to Ottawa and spreading all over. So with increased transmission capacity of the variants, you need higher coverage if you're going to give people herd immunity. So what's a specific example on Maui? Oh, that happened yesterday. We have 3 outbreaks reported, new big ones, potentially huge on Maui. Well, what happened? Well, people, they thought some vaccine coverage is better than nothing. And so if you're going to give me liberties when I've been vaccinated, like no mask outdoors, no mask indoors, if everyone's been vaccinated, you're giving me a vaccine alternative to testing when I travel. Hey, you told me if I was exposed to a patient, true blue COVID, no more quarantine if I've been vaccinated. So you look around and you say, whoa, look at all these liberties. So you know what? I'm going to start liberating myself. No. You only do that. You take advantage of other people's vaccine coverage and hygiene and masking and distancing when you get herd immunity, which is 85% now. We're not at 85%, we're at 50%. But the mentality is, well, something better than nothing, and I'm going to whoop it up. No. Herd immunity, that level, when you get to take advantage of the other people's caution, is when you reach herd immunity. And we see this now. People were whooping it up, doing things, could care less, taking off the mask, because some others get to do it. No, it's an individual thing you must do until we reach herd immunity. And put it quite bluntly, our outbreaks were on LA, California variant. If we were dealing with the Brazilian variant, that variant is so aggressive, it would find you, and you cannot sponge off other people's caution and herd immunity. So that was quite frightening. People who traveled weren't vaccinated. Hey, they couldn't get vaccinated. They were kids. Well, okay, then just travel with the kids because the country's opening up. Nope. It's opening up for those vaccinated, but not for the rest of you. Okay, so that was weird. That was one reason, herd immunity. If you're going to really open it up, you need higher coverage, unfortunately, because of the variants. Next, during the outbreak, we saw vaccine is good because it's convenient. Maybe you don't have to test if you travel. I think that starts May 11th, inter-island. Maybe you don't have to mask if you've all been vaccinated. That's good. And maybe you don't have to quarantine if you've been exposed to a known case. Well, when we hunt out these outbreaks on Maui now, and we find the cases, they don't want to come forward, but we find them and we say, now, who have you contacted in your last, whatever, since you've been sick? Well, let's see, there was my immediate household. Okay. Well, those guys quarantine. They don't work. They don't go out the house unless they've been vaccinated. Whoa. So they say, whoa, gee, I wish I would have been vaccinated. Yeah, after the fact. But right now, before we face more of these situations of forced quarantine, why don't you get vaccinated? Next, for travelers, not necessarily Hawaii residents, okay? Travelers coming in from the mainland, some of them get vaccinated, some don't. Vaccination can exempt you from the post-arrival test. Well, that's convenient. Hey, is that all? Let's say some guys don't get vaccinated and they get the pre-travel test, they're negative, and on post-arrival, they're positive because they got inoculated after the pre-travel test, 3 days before travel. Hey, you're positive. Oh, okay, so I'm going to isolate for 10 days. You know what? Everyone else you sat next to on the plane, what is that, 7, 8 guys, because they're packing the plane, those guys undergo quarantine. So you find those guys and you say, now I know you did the pre-travel test, it was negative. I know you did the post-arrival test, it was negative, but you got to go quarantine 14 days. I was only planning to stay on Maui 5 days. Well, they're not going to let you back on the plane. Do you fulfill this quarantine? Well, who's going to pay? It says in the fine print, if you got restricted from COVID for whatever reason, you pay. You're lucky the hotel lets you in the hotel, because at first the hotels were not. We were putting up sites, including my house for the first 2. But never mind that. Now, you guys got to quarantine 14 days. But it's not my fault. The guy next to me was infected. I'm sorry. But you got to go quarantine 14 days unless you were vaccinated. Whoa. Now that's some incentive, okay? And we were trying to get word out. Why don't you get vaccinated so we don't have to do this to you for the guy you sat next to who wasn't vaccinated? So once again, convenience is a very important factor, especially as we hunt out these 3 outbreaks and everyone's terrified that we're going to have to quarantine them. Okay, and the final reason is what they call long COVID. So it used to be called chronic COVID, then it was changed to long haulers, and now it's called long COVID. I don't like when they keep changing the name. People think we have 3 different syndromes, and then they look at each one and go, well, that's rare, that's rare, that's rare. It's the same syndrome. They keep naming it. So what is a syndrome? After infection, without going to the hospital, without going on a ventilator, actually having a pretty mild case, some people cannot shake their symptoms, okay? And what are their symptoms? Well, some is brain fog. They just can't think straight. Some of it is self-aware brain fog, like I'm just not the same. Some of it is unaware. I'm the same, but my wife keeps saying I'm different. But I'm the same. It's kind of like a drunk driver. I can drive. No, you can't. You don't expect a guy from brain fog to tell you, I got brain fog, unless they got real objective things. We'll get into that later. Then they're chronically fatigued. They're chronically tired. They're forever short of breath or having the sensation of being short of breath. But when I check your oxygen, it's good. I just tell you, I'm short of breath. Whoa, I believe you. Then they have gastrointestinal things like motility, upset, whatever, intestines. Do they actually have diarrhea? No. Are they actually vomiting? No, I feel like I want to vomit. I feel like I'm going to have a diarrhea. Okay, do you have it? No. Okay, interesting. Then they are sleep disturbances, and they can't seem to wake up. And then cognitively, they can't do what they used to do. Okay, these things go on and on and on. And some guys use the definition of chronic as 4 months, 5 months. They don't seem to get better. Some people say, oh, no, they're depressed. This is PTSD. If I was chronically sick like that, I'd be depressed too. Some of them lose their sense of taste and smell, hoping to regain it someday. Some don't, at least for 6 months. And there was a CEO, he had ringing in his ears, loud ringing. He couldn't sleep. And everyone said, well, yeah, you get over it. Well, he committed suicide. And I don't think he was ever going to get over it, okay? These things continue on to get worse. Well, it'd be a curiosity if it wasn't so common. How common is this? 30% of the people have this after the initial infection. And it seems to be in the younger people, very young to age 50. You notice beyond age 50 are the older ones who get on the ventilator, respiratory problems, clot problems, all that kind of stuff. This is a whole different animal. We believe that this animal is your immunity against COVID happened to attack your nerve cells as well. Which nerve cells? Well, what nerve do you think is going to affect the tinnitus? I can't remember. I think it's the 8th nerve, a cranial nerve. How about that heart? I feel like I'm having a heart flutter or I'm short of breath, but my oxygen's fine. That's a vagus nerve. Also the intestinal stuff, that's a vagus nerve coming out of your cranial nerves. Well, what about like tiredness and weakness? I don't know. I guess that brainstem, the awakenedness area. But what about cognitive? I guess it's any part of your gray matter, et cetera, et cetera. Any nerve is fair game. These people have cleared their infection. They just have some uncontrolled, irresponsible immunity. We don't know how to fix it. We don't know if these people are going to get better. And here's the example on Maui was Kalani English, yeah? The Senator English. I'm not divulging personal information. I didn't talk to him yet. I just read in the newspaper. He had COVID before the vaccine yet, November, and now it's been, November, maybe 5 months, and he's not getting better, but he's aware of his lack of, mental function. He said that he couldn't alphabetize things in the folders he was trying to do. So he says, I don't think I'm competent to do my job. Why? It's not just alphabetizing, it's many things. Alphabetizing is just a marker, okay? So then he steps down, but they diagnosed him because tiredness, weakness, and a lot of it they can't remember, but it is sleep disturbance. If you do the sleep studies, they just can't sleep. Maybe that's why they're tired, I don't know. But that's the third reason, long COVID, to get the vaccine. And the vaccine seems to protect you against that. So there's 3 reasons, 3 specific examples, and it's all going to play out. All right, so that's my didactic message. And I guess we have a list of questions. I can answer the questions or new ones you want to put up on the chat. So Joyce, what shall I do? Shall I start answering some of the questions people sent in?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay, so the first question is the boosters. Is it likely that we'll need an annual booster? If so, should we expect the same side effects as the side effects from the first and second dose? Okay, some people in my staff don't like to call it side effects. They like to call it, I forgot what it's called already, the vaccine response. When you get the infection, the real infection, your body responds. Some of it is good, it killed the virus. And some of it couldn't quite kill the virus, and so it's adapting to what the virus does. Some of it might be an over-response. When you kill the virus, it happened to have some collateral damage on the nerves. We're not sure. But, so when we give you the vaccine, your vaccine makes some of the viral proteins, like the spike protein. So when you respond to it, some of it, your response overlaps with some of the symptoms to the normal disease. So tired, yep, COVID gives you that, and the vaccine gives you that. Weak, yes. You might get sore in your body, all over your body. Yep, COVID gives you that, vaccine gives you that, et cetera, et cetera. You get it. Low-grade fever, yes. Generally, we expect these things. That means the vaccine is working. When the vaccine doesn't work, people can't even make immunity. That's probably the 5% that the vaccine didn't work. Remember, vaccine's 95% effective, but 5% not. So we hope that the vaccine gives you some of the symptoms of COVID, but the COVID normally gives you so much more symptoms and then some. The ventilation, the chronic long COVID. I don't think the vaccine gives you long COVID. We have seen long side effects with the vaccine, a week, 2 weeks, and they get better, and they get better suddenly, quickly. Long COVID is going on 4 or 5 months, and they're not getting better. Some of them getting worse. So it does overlap, but we hope that the vaccine, your response to the vaccine is a whole lot less than your response to COVID. All right, so do you think we're going to need a booster? Well, when do you give boosters for vaccinations? Well, you get 2 ways you could look at it. You think the protection's falling off. You can either show me in the lab, we have laboratory markers, immune markers, antibodies, or cellular markers, T cells. And we know we think we know what antibodies correlate with protection. They have various names, neutralizing antibody. That makes sense. Hemagglutinin antibody, whatever. I'm fishing for the influenza stuff. So we pick antibodies, I give you the shot, I look at the antibodies, and I say, I think that one gives protection, okay? Same on the cellular level. Besides antibodies, there's the other arm of the immunity is cellular. We think we know what correlates with immunity. Well, how do you know that? Because in the lab, I culture the virus, and then I immerse it in this bath of immunity, and I said, oh, look, we're neutralizing the cells or not. So when those markers start to fall, people start saying, oh, is it time for a booster to boost it? Sometimes it's not a great correlation. I think hepatitis A, boy, those markers fell, but they really didn't need a booster. As soon as they got hepatitis A, they just remembered what they did, raised those markers and blocked it. But some other things, when the markers fall, like hepatitis B, maybe it's time for a booster, okay? So we will watch the markers, that's one. Once we see the markers fall, we look for clinical correlation. Maybe your markers weren't so predictive. So markers or not, the clinical guys say, hey, after 1 year or after 6 months, people are getting infection again. So they're going to first say, well, are they sick or are they just getting infected? Because if they're just going to get infected and not get sick, that's a natural booster. But if they start to get sick, time for a booster. So you get it. I don't know when the booster will come. These antibodies seem to fall off faster than other diseases, other vaccines. But does it correlate? Don't forget, hepatitis A, these guys dropped their antibodies totally, but man, they were protected. At the slightest presentation of real hepatitis A, they spike their antibodies or spike their cellular stuff and just shut that thing down. But not so for hepatitis B. Okay, so we will watch carefully and try to guess when you need the booster. Also, don't forget now, that's against normal COVID. If you get a novel variant, like the Brazilian variant, it's not really a booster. It's like a second shot for a second strain. It's like the flu vaccine. It's not quite the booster. It's the new strain that came in. But the strains might cross-protect. So against the old one, it's a booster, but against a new one, it's a new vaccine. So you kind of get the idea. Okay, Joyce, shall I go to the next question? I have like 5 questions. I'm trying to pace myself.
Go ahead.
Okay, wait, are there any outstanding questions on that first answer to the first question? Okay, next question. If I'm trying to get pregnant, would you recommend taking the vaccine? Actually, this is a very good question. When we first rolled out the vaccine, we admitted to everyone, hey, we didn't give it to pregnant people, except a couple of people by mistake. So I said, well, if we didn't give it to pregnant people, why don't we not give it? Then they said, well, the authorities say that it's okay based on everything we know about pregnancy and the vaccine. But yeah, we know about pregnancy, but we didn't know that much about the vaccine. We didn't give it. On the same token, they said, hey, we didn't give it to Moderna, kids less than 18. So they said, absolutely, you don't give it. Well, how come we didn't give it to kids under 18 and absolutely you don't give it? We didn't give it to pregnant women, but it's kind of okay if it's between them and their doctor. Okay. So we had 2 different rulings based on the same phase 3 trial. You didn't give it, but the American College of OBGYN said, well, we think it's like, okay. Okay. I was spooked from giving it. I thought maybe other people who really wanted it, we would study them first. They said no. I was called up by the OBGYN people and said, it's their choice. If they want it, you give it. Well, gee, okay. So we did it. And lo and behold, that message resonated enough. So now that we've given 100 million doses of Moderna, a lot to pregnant women, we studied them and found that it's quite safe for pregnancy and whenever they gave birth. You're supposed to follow the kid for 1 year to look at their milestones. So based on this, supportive evidence of the people who got it, bigger numbers, they said, oh, okay, it's probably fine. Of course, still you consult with your doctor, your OBGYN person, and it's the woman's decision, okay, to get it. I thought it was a little weird because at first these people who we said it's okay to get, they were part of a study. Wow. Was it a formal study? Well, no, it's called a phase 3 post-marketing, phase 4 post-marketing study. After you do your controlled studies against a control group, randomized, monitoring up the yazoos, then you open it to the market and you say, oh, look at all these other kind of people we gave it to. We give it to hypothyroid, maybe we give it to that guy. And then you do post-marketing studies called phase 4. I'm still a little perturbed. I did what the Fed said to do. I'm still a little perturbed that the pregnancy depended on phase 4 post-marketing. Okay, but nonetheless, we learn what we learned and we move on ahead. Still, we don't give it to 18-year-olds. Yeah, and 16-year-olds for Pfizer until they did a formal phase 3 study. Well, Dr. Pang, that's different. Oh, no, I don't think that's so different. Okay, enough of that. So if your doctor and the woman want the vaccine, we feel more comfortable in giving it. Okay, more comfortable than I did December 23rd when we first rolled it out. Okay. When do you foresee vaccines being available to the 12 to 15-year-olds on Maui, the younger group? What about those slightly less, 10 or 11? Well, now we're back into the phase 3 studies, those big randomized double-blinded trials. So the companies, I think Pfizer, think they're quite close, have enough people study to say it's okay for the kids 12 to 16-year-old. So they're going down and down. Well, why can't we just say, how about the 11 and 10-year-olds? It's kind of a slippery slope when you do pediatrics, and they keep telling you they're not just smaller versions of adults, and the 10 and 11-year-old kids are not just smaller versions of the 12 to 15-year-olds. I mean, all the hormones, all the development, all the et cetera, et cetera. So in this area, I'll leave it to them. They want formal phase 3, randomized, blinded, highly monitored studies as they come down and down on the age groups. I thought Dr. Fauci said we're going to vaccinate all kids in the summer, assuming they clear the test, the phase 3 studies, those big trials, and that they'll be ready for the fall school semester. He changed it a couple of days ago. He said we might be vaccinating the kids through the fall, and then they'd be ready for the new year. Okay. I don't mind that if you change the timetable. I just like to get straight what kind of studies are we using to open it up to new groups. I mean, are we going to do like pregnancy studies? Well, if the kid wants it, it's between him and his doctor. Oh, okay. Or not. We shall see. Next question. At what point will fully vaccinated people not have to do the daily check-in? I think the daily check-in was for those exposed who are in quarantine. Well, fully vaccinated people, assuming it's a real vaccine, not fraud, they don't have to even go to quarantine. So they don't have to do the daily check-ins, except...
Excuse me, Dr. Pang. I think what this person means is that we have to, if we're on campus here on Maui College, we have our daily check-ins.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you're checking in for symptoms? Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we check in and we're okay, and we're here.
Okay, good thing I said except. If you're fully vaccinated, mostly you don't have to do, well, first of all, you don't have to quarantine. You don't have to wear a mask outdoors, and you get these travel privileges instead of testing. So the head of CDC says, when you're fully vaccinated, consider that as a substitute for testing. Testing for what? Travel? Yes. Testing for being on campus? Yes. But there's a caveat here. Sometimes if you're sick, even if you're fully vaccinated, that kind of trumps everything. Don't forget, the vaccine is only 95% effective, so that leaves 5% having been vaccinated, having no effect. And your herd immunity now is pushed up to 85% coverage. The vaccine's only 95% effective, only. Yeah, it's always compared to your herd immunity. And if the Brazilian variant gets here, and plenty visitors from Canada are coming in, I don't know what herd immunity we will need. So the campus check, Bryce. Okay, campus check. Key question, are you sick? Okay. Then it's like, well, have you been vaccinated? Okay, because if you haven't been vaccinated, then you really need to do all that mitigation stuff, mask, distance, hand washing, all that. Don't share this, don't share that. You cannot take advantage of the herd immunity of the other students here. Okay, so please get vaccinated. At least you'll be contributing to herd immunity and not trying to take advantage of it when it should not be taken advantage of. Okay, One more thing. Vaccinated people, I'm vaccinated. I'm just going to see my relatives. Wait. Not in a nursing home. So there are special high-risk groups. Even the vaccinated people, they might ask, first of all, are you sick? Second of all, can you get a negative test? Because vaccinated people, if you get 100 vaccinated people and you expose them all, and normally if I had a control group, they'd all get COVID. How many people are going to end up vaccinated? If 100 controls get exposed and they all get COVID, and I get 100 vaccinated people and I expose them, 95% don't get sick. But how many people carry it in their nose? A third of them. Whoa, you mean they can spread it around from their nose? Yes, but whatever they spread around, we don't know if that's infectious. There's a lot of stuff you carry in your nose that's infectious, meningitis, Staphylococcus, Staph aureus, and then all the flu viruses. But for some reason, some of these times, people who are immune, they can carry stuff in their nose, but when they spread it, it's not infectious. The studies for infectiousness have not been done for the vaccinated people. Now, way back when, 8 months ago, we thought that COVID, before vaccine, I had COVID. Oh yeah, look, you're still shedding it in your nose. And it continued on and on and on, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And we thought some people keep shedding it as carriers. They're no longer sick. They just keep shedding it to others. What a horrible thing. I got COVID, and you keep shedding it to us. The Koreans did a beautiful study to show that although you shed it in your nose, it's not infectious. They did a cell culture. It wasn't infecting the cells. Okay. They had very low levels. And then they checked all the family members of these people who were chronically shedding in their nose after an infection. Family members didn't get infected. So they said that as much as you can find in your nose, it's not infectious. Okay. Now, same thing after the vaccine. Yeah, I can find it in 30% of you guys in your nose, but we haven't done the studies to see if it's infectious. So of course, I called the Korean Ministry of Health. Can't you just repeat that, what you did for COVID? You get a bunch of guys, you get vaccine A, B, C, D. Tell me, when they're carriers, are they infectious? They said, well, Dr. Pan, here, we don't have that much COVID like before, okay? So how about we do this design for infectiousness in the States where you guys keep getting COVID? So, okay, fine. But somebody's got to do that study, because you keep shedding it in your nose, and I don't know if it's infectious. Okay, so that was the daily check-in, and that was the reason. If God help us, if you're still infectious after the vaccine, a third, then it looks like you got to wear a mask, and we got to reinstitute some stuff, and I don't know what we're going to do. Okay. Now, next question. This is the last question I have. I would think vaccines would need to go through years of extensive testing before being pushed to the public. With that said, why are these considered safe, these COVID vaccines, to distribute? So really, it leads to public skepticism, and why are they considered safe? It is true. All the vaccines now being used are not fully approved. They're EUA, emergency use approved. Okay. Basically, whenever you're going to do something, drug, diagnostic test, or vaccine, or procedure, you always have to look at the risk and benefits of your intervention, your vaccine, against the risk and benefits of not doing it, COVID. And then the same thing, the risk and benefits of the alternatives. Okay, now that's interesting. The alternatives, before the vaccine, New York could drop that R value from 6 to 1. Can't we just do that? Masking and hand washing and distancing? Okay, wait. Somebody's got to mute there. Okay, so you could do the alternatives to control it. But some people said, I'm tired of that lockdown and all that stuff. So how about the vaccine? Now you're weighing societal risk and benefits against individual, right? Some people said, oh, I'm willing to squirrel away forever. But the other guy said, no, we got to open up the economy. Now you have this difference between altruistic. Like, what if I said, I never want the vaccine. I promise to stay away. I'm a hermit. But then they said, oh, come on. If you got the vaccine, we can open up society. Don't you want to do this? And I say, well, no. So we have this all the time, this issue. Okay, altruist, risk benefit to society or risk and benefit to the individual. And believe me, COVID is not the first, and it's relatively simple to solve. I'll tell you the bad one coming up soon. Okay, so risk benefit of the intervention, of not doing it, of doing it, and then the alternatives. So they deemed that at the time COVID was so aggressively spreading, we had seen enough detriment in the elderly people that we were just going to roll out the vaccine kind of on a voluntary basis. Okay, I feel okay about that, because I'm older, I was at risk. But now it's even upped because of the long COVID in the younger people. So they said, I'm tired of you talking about health thing. No, you're not tired. We didn't know about the long COVID. So there's great benefits and the same risk that we were always doing for the people who altruistically were trying to help us achieve herd immunity. Okay? So it's a complex formula, but it's individual risk benefits versus societal. And it's always judged against the alternative of doing nothing and then the alternatives of all the mitigating factors. So there was a judgment made that we should roll them out on a voluntary basis. Now, here's what we faced long ago. Malaria. Oh, gosh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah, but malaria, there was a vaccine. It didn't pan out, but there was hopes for a vaccine. So what's malaria? It's a parasite. Man, mosquito, man, mosquito, man, mosquito. It must go obligatory to the mosquito stages, then must come obligatory to man. Okay? I'm talking about man malaria, not chicken malaria, not rat malaria. There's a malaria for each of them. Okay, so we have the vaccine. We're going to block one of the stages. Which stage did we work on? We worked on transmitting from the man who already had his malaria to the mosquito. And the guy said, well, why should I take that vaccine? I already got my malaria. I'm already kind of immune a little bit from the malaria. The vaccine just keeps me from giving it to the mosquito to bite the next guy. So that was called altruistic. And a lot of guys said, I'm never going to take that vaccine. There's nothing for me. I already got malaria. Wow. What about your kid? Your kid's going to get bitten by the mosquito who got bitten from you. So it wasn't so altruistic because malaria was so tight within a family cluster that they said, oh, I'm helping my kid. Okay, I'll do that. So, I mean, it sounds selfish, but that's how it plays out. Personal risk benefit versus societal. Okay. So we just leave it at that. Now, Joyce, I think I'm through unless we have more questions on the chat or unless people submitted more questions.
Okay, that's great. So perhaps we'll have Kathleen, would you share what you have to share?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for that, Dr. Pang. I love listening to Dr. Pang. I did have some slides prepared in case. I think most of it was covered by Dr. Pang. So just briefly addressing kind of what I call the ABCs of COVID-19 vaccine information. So including access and availability for A, and benefits for B. That includes both individual and community benefits. And then for C, being concerns and cost. So again, I think Dr. Pang covered it pretty well. I'd like to open it up to questions. The other part I have is just to review our campus policies, procedures, and resources. So I guess my question is, are the people in attendance kind of sold on the vaccine idea and you want to know more about how to access them? Or do you have questions and concerns and you're still on the fence about getting vaccines and you'd like that clarified? So I don't know if anyone in the audience now wants to speak up in the chat or verbally, and we kind of get a sense of what you guys want to do. We don't have a lot of time, just about 10 minutes left of this session.
Somebody is asking about if you could explain the long haul COVID and about Senator English, what happened to him, and the ramifications of that.
Okay, I think that question was for me. Everything I say was public knowledge, and then I got to call him afterwards because he's a friend, but I wanted to make sure I only share what's public knowledge. So it's called long COVID, but it used to be called long hauler. Everybody's talking about it. Harvard, Oxford, NIH, Anthony Fauci spoke about this 2 weeks ago. So Senator English, he got COVID before vaccines, and he was kind of toughing it. He got COVID in November, and he was trying to tough it out, and he was depressed, I guess because he wasn't getting better. And so as time went on, now it's in April, 5 months, and he wasn't getting better, but he said that he recognized in himself that he couldn't do some mental tasks that he used to do, like alphabetize things and all. And then he kind of realized that mentally he wasn't all there like before, and that this has gone on long enough, and he wasn't really improving. So then he voluntarily stepped down, but he got diagnosed with the other symptoms: tired, weakness, sometimes short of breath for like no reason, and these long problems that weren't getting better. He realized that he should not be a legislator. So that's kind of it. Always against the backdrop of this is sleep disturbances that you can't remember. You're just not sleeping well. So when they look at long COVID, it shares, there's a researcher from Stanford, very good. I can't remember his name. I think it's like Davis or something, Stan Davis or something. He studies chronic fatigue syndrome, and he says some of the things share in common with chronic fatigue syndrome. He has a diagnostic test. It's just not fake medicine. These guys come out of Stanford for chronic fatigue syndrome. And once he diagnoses it, he said the treatment of chronic fatigue syndrome is almost paradoxical. You don't push them harder and harder or they backslide. So now he's applying this to certain groups with long COVID. Okay.
So is it true that if a person who is a long hauler experiencing that if they got the vaccine, they might get better?
Yes, we heard that. And it's not just the vaccine, it could be any vaccine. And Dr. Fauci raised this issue because so many people were upset with long COVID. He said, well, okay, what about that? Like you just said. He said, and I agree with him because I tried to look at it, it's more than just 1 or 2 cases. It's kind of bigger numbers. But what he said is, it's what they call anecdotal studies. A bunch of guys with long COVID, they get a vaccine, they feel better or get better. He said, you're missing the control group. Some of these people might have spontaneously gotten better. Well, the longer you have COVID, like, 7 months, I don't think you're spontaneously getting better. And some people say, well, who cares about your control group? I'm just happy to be better. Okay, fine. But for the official recommendation, you kind of have to do a control group just to see how many people spontaneously get better. And a lot of them do around 1 month or 2 months. So a lot of people say, well, that's not long COVID then. Okay, fine. But some people are getting better. And Fauci, and I agree, I think we need a control group of people who don't get vaccinated with long COVID to see how many people get better. Okay.
There's a question in the chat about if we got vaccinated at Maui College, are we able to access our vaccination record online, like those who got vaccinated at the hospital and CVS?
Okay. There was some weird thing. People who entered in VAMS directly can access their own records. So the hospital and CVS. But all the other groups, including big groups in Honolulu, we entered you in VAMS from our own collection. And so we have to help get your record. And people have been asking, and we get their record, fine. But the people can't access it themselves. So, that's one little problem with VAMS here. Oh, and by the way, you think, whoa, can't you be like all the other guys on VAMS? Oh, only 7 states actually did that direct access to VAMS. 7 states. So the other states had problems like we did too.
So to do that, we would email you.
Call us. Yes, whoever gave you the shot, we put it in VAMS and we have to access it back through. We have to enter for you on VAMS. We can help you do that.
Was somebody that asked a question that wasn't answered on the form.
Say that again, Joyce.
Someone asked a question about the current laws on the form. Let's see.
About the
Oh, okay.
what?
What are the current gathering laws on Maui? It was a comment on the form, you know, the questionnaire form. So what are the current laws on Maui? How can we find out if COVID test is approved for travel to Hawaii from the mainland? And what are your best guesses for when the Trans-Pacific Vaccine Passport will take in effect?
Okay, that one is best to go onto the Maui County website because Maui County has its own testing procedures, right? Safe travel test and then an arrival test. And I think it's supposed to start the 4th of May. So there's certain state laws, but you got to look specifically at Maui because we have different kind of testing. And then Trans-Pacific proof of vaccine gets you out of the arrival test, post-arrival test. You still got to do pre-travel, safe travel, pre-travel test.
What is your best guess for when the Trans-Pacific Vaccine Passport will take in effect? Just your best guess.
Okay, first of all, the vaccine can substitute for the post-arrival test, but the question is, when will it just cover any tests for travel? Pre-travel, post-arrival, whatever. I think the bugaboo seems to be when they can prove or validate the vaccine passport. In other words, don't fake it, don't fraudulently make your own. So we have asked the CDC, who controls all vaccine records, will you help in the name of travel, will you help validate these passports? And the answer so far has been no, that they're too busy to help for that because it's travel. But Hawaii big on travel, right? So we're stuck trying to use the passport, but always afraid of fraud. And once fraud gets out, then it gets uncontrolled. So it's kind of a mess. It's kind of an administrative proof of verification.
There's another question about how would you travel from Maui to Oahu and back if you're only going for the day? When and where would you get tested? So would you get tested on Maui before, or how would that work?
Okay, well, right now, after May 4th or something, if you have a vaccine, proof of vaccine, we'll honor that gets you out of testing, okay? But if you don't have that, then you say, I'm never gonna get the vaccine, then you get tested. Generally, wherever you go, port of entry, they say, have you had a negative test in the last 72 hours? So you can say, yeah, I got one on Maui and I'm back in Maui here and it hasn't been 72 hours. Now, there was a little bit confusion because one guy tried to do that in 48 hours and then there's a lot of trouble that I think we tried to resolve. So a negative test within 72 hours of appearing before me should be inter-island, should be okay. But the vaccine will get you out of the test inter-island.
Yeah, I can speak to that briefly also before we go on to the next question. Our health center, the UHMC Health Center, is now a trusted travel partner, and we have begun doing testing. So if staff or faculty, anyone associated with the UH campus here needs travel testing, we did the Chancellor just this morning. We did a few individuals yesterday afternoon. So first test is free for students. For faculty and staff, it's a cost of $80, which is a reduced rate compared to some of the other opportunities to do that. And it's a rapid test, 15 minutes, you get your results back.
That is so wonderful to hear that. So many people, were waiting for that to happen. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for making that happen. There are no more questions on the chat nor on the form. Oh, there's one more. How does the CDC card we received when we got vaccinated count as proof?
Wait, can you repeat the question?
How does that card that we received, the vaccination card from the CDC that we received, how when we got vaccinated, how would that count as proof?
Okay, so all I know is on the inter-island travel, local, if you got vaccinated in Hawaii, you have to register that I got vaccinated and they'll check to say, yes, we did. And then you travel with a card also. So it's both the card and the registration. So when you come up, they said, yeah, we know who you are. I was hoping for some kind of QR code or something, but we're not quite there yet. Now for proof, so you don't get quarantined, trust me, we can, those are important things. We can pull up, at least in that state, proof. We can't do it for other states. That's why it's hard to apply it to people who got vaccinated, not in Hawaii.
And Kathleen, somebody was asking, can you please include our immediate family members in that test? That would be really awesome. And somebody else is asking to kind of explain a little bit more. So you're saying that the vaccines are not fully approved then, right?
Correct. They're emergency use approval. And soon they will approve them because you're missing, it's called phase 4 post-marketing. Once we see how it applies to the general public, then they will say, like they're trying to say for Johnson & Johnson, it's okay for everybody, but watch out if you had clots with low platelets. I mean, that's a whole purpose, applying it to everybody and trying to pick off special cases. So it does kind of make sense.
Mm-hmm. And how do you get tested? So you have to get tested every time before you travel inter-island, correct? Right now, before.
Yeah, well, if you're going to stay out for more than 72 hours, but if you get the vaccination on May 4th, it starts. That will, inter-island local vaccination will exempt you from any test for travel.
And somebody wants some clarification on registering your vaccine card. Are they already registered somewhere? They are, right?
Yes, they get the vaccine card when they get the shot, but the paper form goes to a registration ours, and then we load it onto VAMS. That's third party. Okay, so yeah, the different pieces, right?
Anything else?
I saw there was a question about lamination. Dr. Pang, did you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I wish the cards had been a little more official looking, and somebody said, hey, if you're going to laminate, why don't you emboss it? So, that's more, I guess we're a little bit behind. I thought we would do a parallel verification on the records, but I don't know. I mean, I wish we had made the card look a little more official, but a lot of people said we traveled for years on that yellow shot card internationally. Nobody asked for lamination or embossment on that. And then they said, oh, but COVID's different. It's not. It's not. We've done TB, we've done yellow fever, we've done, goodness, Ebola with the yellow shot card. But they wanted something different for COVID.
So please confirm that we personally don't have to do anything. If we got the vaccine card from the clinic here at Maui College, it's already registered, correct?
It's already registered, but if you're going to use it for travel, there's something, you sign up for travel, you're going to travel. Then you have to register that you got the vaccine. They will say, yep, they got the vaccine. Then that pre-registration for travel plus the card gets you through. In other words, if you just show us the card, they're going to say, well, gee, can you wait like 30 minutes while we double check that you got vaccinated? Try to do it beforehand. It's kind of like a registration before travel. And it's like a one-time deal, man. Because you got the vaccine, you're in the database.
Okay, so we just have to confirm that we're in the database. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's on the travel database because it's going to be used for travel, inter-island residents.
And somebody's asking, is that on the Safe Travel site that we can do that?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the Safe Travel for a while. But if it is, well, that is statewide, inter-island travel. So I haven't looked at Safe Travel. I haven't traveled in a while. But my daughter is about to travel. So like, she's the best source of information. She goes, yeah, I just registered on for the travel bit. And now I'm going to go with my card, you know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure all this stuff. I haven't been there for a while.
And somebody's confirming to confirm that we are in the database correctly. You know, sometimes when you write it out, you know, the transfer is not correct. So we would call the Department of Health, or who would we contact or email?
We had some problems because when you start to travel and they look at your ID, some guys, when they register their shot on their shot card, and when we put their name in, it was a nickname, okay?
Oh, right.
And now they're going to look at your card, your registration against your ID, which doesn't have the nickname. Hi. So I think we've been changing it to their real name when they realize they're going to have to match it against their driver's license ID. Now, you realize this never happened with the yellow shot card, yellow fever. It's like, oh, she had one. Did you check the name? No, she had a card. I mean, it was pretty loose.
Right. And if you have two middle names, it can be a problem as well, right?
Boy.
It's not exact.
Yeah.
You
Just try
get
to
a
make
lot
it
of
match your driver's license thing. Whatever you're going to show them as official ID, you got to update your card and your registration thing. That was a little bit of a problem.
Okay, so just to clarify, who are we contacting now to do this? Because there's gonna be a lot of
Okay.
people.
It's the same group of registering for an appointment. It's like an appointment to fix my register. So can I remember the thing? 3780, 984-3780. Does that, I have a bad memory. I didn't even have COVID. I have brain fog. I think it's 984-3780.
We can confirm that and send it out to the campus.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
And probably email might be better just for you guys because, wow, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, but we thought the feds would take care of this because they have the master registry, but they can't even deal with the nickname issue.
Yeah, and somebody commented that, you know, TSA requires that what's on your driver's license, which could be a very long name, right? With multiple names. I mean, two middle names or whatever. So, yeah.
Look, the reason why they're torturing us with all these forms is because they're afraid of fraud. If we go through this and there's not a lot of fraud, then it's relatively easy. Like safe travel. Oh, what if there's fraud? What if there's fraud? Oh, there wasn't too much fraud. Okay, just go get the test, right? So, but the more fraud we have, the more it tortures the guys who trying to behave here.
Okay.
And Joyce, if there aren't any more specific questions, do you mind if I just show my slides real quick? Because there's a few
Oh, go ahead.
resources
Oh,
I'd
no,
like to point out.
Please.
Please.
I know we're over time, but
My fault.
no worries. Okay. So these are just some, questions that have come up as we've done some promotion, especially to the more vulnerable groups on Maui around vaccines. There is no cost to the vaccine. Sometimes people have been confused when we've asked for paperwork or made photocopies. Sometimes we do bill insurance, so we can get a little bit of money back that helps cover. So the vaccine itself is free, but there's syringes and needles and gloves and resources in order to administer it. So if there is that, that's where that administrative fee comes in, but there's no cost to vaccine. We are doing a clinic for the Filipino community tomorrow, Saturday, and that's from, I believe, 8:30 to 1:30 at the Bimini Center. And we are not going to do any of that because we understood, we got the feedback that culturally that might be an impediment. It might be a reason that people wouldn't feel comfortable getting the vaccine. So we're not going to do any photocopies or collect any paperwork. We're just going to administer the vaccine, again, targeting it to the communities to make it as accessible as possible. So this just addresses some of the side effects. There is a national registry of side effects. They haven't found any detectable causes of death from the vaccines, and there have been over 237 million administered in the United States. That was as of yesterday. And as Dr. Pang addressed, a lot of what people consider side effects is just the immune response, right? And they tend to be short-term as opposed to the longer-term illness symptoms from COVID itself. Again, just some frequently asked questions and answers about the vaccines. These are the mRNA, the Moderna, and the Pfizer. And then J&J had been paused and it's back in use again. We do have Johnson & Johnson vaccine here on campus, as well as the Moderna. The Pfizer vaccine is administered through the hospital because they have the special cold, cold keeping capabilities that we don't have. But it is being used again, and there is a caution, for childbearing women age. So again, that is back in use. It is a different type of vaccine, and there's a link here for more information. In terms of benefits, we talked about this. They're highly effective, and if we can achieve herd immunity, then we can get closer to going back to the normal that we all want. And then these are some of those specifics. The exemption from post-arrival testing, that's going to begin on May 4th. And then the exemption from inter-island testing and quarantine is going to be effective May 11th. And we anticipate sometime soon, we don't know when, hopefully within the next few months, they will expand that to trans-Pacific travel, right? As Dr. Pang said, it's a matter of them figuring out the paperwork and assuring that, the vaccine cards are legitimate. And then hopefully we can open up travel more to vaccinated individuals. There was this new guidance from the Centers for Disease Control just a few days ago. This is the one that kind of got the big news around you can be outside if you've been vaccinated without a mask. Again, we're being cautious. And my understanding, and from the Hawaii Emergency Management Association meeting yesterday, the state of Hawaii hasn't yet updated their regulations, but in spirit, they are guided by the CDC issuance. So, in terms of the local rules, they haven't been officially updated, but they probably will be to remain in alignment with what the national recommendations are. So it's fully available, the vaccine, anyone over age of 16. Again, we're hopefully that'll go down to age 12 in the next few months. So we're staying tuned for that. I did get vaccinated on December 23rd at that very first clinic where I was volunteering. And my daughter's 12, so I am staying tuned to see when she's available because I am looking forward to traveling. And I'm honestly kind of on the fence right now. I haven't traveled since December of 2019. I did have spring break plans last year that got canceled, as many others did. And, I'm not sure if it's a good idea for me to travel with an unvaccinated child or not. So, we're all staying tuned. It's a hard decision. So we are all waiting, and we'll release that information as soon as it's available in terms of increased accessibility for our keiki in terms of the vaccine.
Just one moment, Kathleen,
Sure.
about the age. So is it true that for Moderna, it's up to 18 years old, and for Pfizer, it's 16?
That's correct. Pfizer's the only one that 16 and 17-year-olds can get right now. You have to be 18 or older to get the Moderna.
Thank you for that clarification.
So for those who want to get vaccinated, initially, because we had a limited supply of vaccine, we were controlling who we gave it to, as well as needing registration. That has loosened up a lot, right? We have plenty of vaccine. We want to get it to the people who need it. So a lot of places are walk-in. For example, our clinic tomorrow, we have a walk-in option, so you can pre-register. The DOH clinics are going that way as well. So previously, and again, we're trying to take away barriers, right? If people aren't comfortable online or registering, people can just show up. Again, trying to get the vaccine out. So things are changing in terms of kind of the hoops you have to jump through to get vaccinated. There is a vaccine finder. If you go to vaccinefinder.org/search, this is some information, clinics, the DOH clinics that we're doing on campus. We have been doing those twice a week. They're going to start going to just once a week. I believe on Fridays next week in the cafeteria. That's still an option. Our health center on campus, we do have vaccine and we do individual appointments. So call the health center and we can just do 10 or 11 in a day because once we open a vial, we have to use it up. So we can't do one person here, one person here. So that's our only scheduling constraint, but we do have the vaccine. So if that's a better option for people to come in just on campus as an individual, please call the health center about that. Again, lots of resources on the island to get vaccines to people. And what we're going to be doing more this summer is what we call the push pods. So the pull pods is when people come to the points of distribution, like we were doing on our campus in the back parking lot. Now we're pushing, so we're taking it out to vulnerable populations, right? We're taking it out to senior groups or those who are homeless and things like that. So more to come. If anyone's aware of a group that wants access to vaccine but is having difficulty, you can let us know and we can make plans to reach out to them. We are going to continue all our safety precautions. Again, we have not reached herd immunity. We have a ways to go. So in terms of resources, this is a somewhat new site, mauinuistrong.info, and it's kind of one-stop shopping. It has information about travel, it has information about vaccines, about testing. So I'd encourage you guys to go and check this out if you do have additional questions. And this hawaiicovid19.com, that's been around a little bit longer. And again, just an easy access resource, if you're comfortable navigating things online to get more information. In terms of our campus, we do have our task force, we meet weekly, so we're always taking in the newest guidance from the state level and the national level, thinking about things like that daily pre-screening form, having discussions, is that going to change? For now, it hasn't, but it might very well change. You may be exempted from that if you've been vaccinated. So stay tuned for that. We'll announce those changes. We do have rapid free COVID testing at our health center. Just call to make an appointment, as well as we are a travel authorized trusted partner for that as well. And in terms of fall planning, some people may have heard the chancellor mentioned in the campus forum earlier this week that the requirement for vaccinations could happen. That's not decided at our campus level. That would be a system level decision. But there is a precedent for it. Many major universities, colleges on the mainland have made the decision to require the vaccine, even though it's under the emergency authorization. So again, no decisions for our campus. That would be decided at the system level, but there is a trend in that direction. So again, right now it's not required. We're just strongly encouraging everyone to get vaccinated for their own protection and the protection of our Maui community. So that's all that I had. I apologize for going over time.
Is that going to be required, the vaccinations for students or faculty and staff, or all?
Yeah, it really depends. And again, it's not our decision to make at the campus level. And, and I'm not sure, I heard students, for UC system, but I'm not sure about faculty and staff. Yeah, I don't have answer to that question.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pang and Kathleen Hagan. It was very informative, and we learned a lot, and we really appreciate your time. Somebody's asking, if vaccines are required, does that mean we won't have to wear a mask while we teach?
That's correct. Well, at least the CDC guidance has to be interpreted by the state, then come down from the UH, okay? But in closed areas, everybody vaccinated, no mask, okay?
Awesome.
Now, before the vaccine, the reason you got away with it is because you're all one household. related to each other, but that is correct. Everybody vaccinated, enclosed area, no mask. Unless you're in a nursing home or something like that, okay?
Okay, mahalo everybody. Take care. Thank you for joining us today.